Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, what exactly is this month's budget for? That's not a rhetorical question. I saw a comment on Twitter in response to something I'd written, and they said something which demonstrates that they don't actually know why Rachel Reeves is having to present a budget this month. I don't think they were trolling either. I think it was a genuine statement. So it occurred to me, maybe people don't actually know what this budget is, and who can blame them, because it's not like the media have been explaining it to people. So let's go over in very basic terms what is actually going on. So someone says to me in relation to the budget that they were concerned about the debt mounting up and the legacy we were leaving to our children. I did respond to them, of course, but it also occurs to me that many other people may have the same misapprehension. Basically, the debt isn't mounting up. In fact, it's the record debt that the Tories left us which is the reason for this budget. There is no other reason for it. So ask yourselves, and this is a serious question. So we know that Rachel Reeves is working on tax rises and probably some spending cuts, likely in the welfare budget to calm ruffled feathers. But why? Are some of the investments that she announced last year set to cost more? No. I mean, that sort of thing can happen. Long-term investment projects can end up costing more than you originally planned. It's actually quite common, but that's not the case here. So are tax receipts lower than she expected last year? Like, have those mythical millionaires fleeing the country taken their tax returns with them and she needs to make up the shortfall elsewhere? No, that was debunked this summer. Okay, so is the economy doing badly? No, the economy has grown in every quarter since Labour took over. We haven't had a sustained period of growth like that for years. Inflation remains sticky, but interest rates have been coming down. So that not only makes it easier for businesses to invest, but it also shows that the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee, who set the rates, are not concerned about inflation. In fact, they think it's going to come down quite sharply next year. If they were concerned, interest rates would have either been on hold or gone up. So if the investment plans are still fine and the economy is growing and the scarpering millionaires haven't left a massive hole in the tax receipts, why is Reeves having to raise more taxes? Well, it's to maintain a fiscal rule that says the OBR model must show that the debt will fall as a share of GDP over the next 5 years. The model says it is not currently projected to do that based on forecasts. So the one and only reason Reeves is making any adjustments at all to the budget is to make sure she can demonstrate to investors in the gilt market that debt will definitely fall over the next 5 years. She is prioritising that over everything, even over manifesto promises, which is a hell of a big move, which I'll discuss more in another video, hopefully at some point in the next few days. It's also worth pointing out that the reported size of the new hole in the budget is smaller than the margin for error in the OBR model. Now, we can't be absolutely certain about that because the only quotes we have for the size of the hole is what people are speculating on. Until Rachel Reeves announces it in the budget, we won't know for certain. But in terms of the numbers being bandied about, it's actually quite small. In other words, the only reason Reeves is having to announce any changes in her budget is because the model says debt might not be smaller in 5 years than it is now. Not because debt will not fall in 5 years, just that the model isn't certain it will. A model with inherent errors because predicting economic figures 5 years into the future is really very difficult, even with top economic modelers of the likes that OBR use. But the amount the model thinks debt would rise is less than their margin for error, meaning that in theory, Rachel Reeves could do nothing, announce no new taxes, no new spending cuts or anything, just say, do you know what, I announced my budget last year, I'm keeping it as it is. And in 5 years' time, our debt might still come down anyway. But investors want a mathematical assessment. They don't want a politician's optimism. So she has to adjust her tax and spend plans until the computer says yes. That is why this budget is needed. It's not because the economy is struggling more than it was last year. By no measure is that true. It's because a model thinks it will struggle more than it thought it would a year ago. The model might be right or it might be wrong. It doesn't matter. Computer says no, so Reeves has to get her Excel spreadsheet out again. So although there will be things about the budget which people will reasonably be concerned about, and some may have reason to, most won't, hopefully not too many, one thing is certain: debt is not mounting. Reeves has based her entire legacy on the notion of making sure debt falls over the Parliament. She even seems willing to break manifesto promises to make sure that happens. That's why the budget is needed. Not because there's an actual hole in the finances, there isn't. It's because a mathematical model isn't convinced that debt will be less at the end of this Parliament than it was at the beginning. But the amount is so small that natural errors could mean it's wrong. But investors, who are absolutely vital, would rather trust a model with errors than trust to luck. And because, ever since Liz Truss's mini-budget, no government would dare risk panicking gilt investors unless they were insane, the OBR model must be taken as gospel. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind-the-scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.